Hi, my name is Sean Wise, and I'm going to spend a few minutes today talking about firewall options that can be used as part of Defund's new network configuration. Before we begin, just a little bit about firewall providers in general. It's a very competitive market. There's a lot of providers out there. You have your common names: Cisco, Checkpoint, Juniper. You also have Palo Alto, Fortinet, McAfee, SonicWall. All these are very, very common within the firewall market. This is by all means not a all-inclusive list. There are many other vendors as well. But we're going to touch on these three primarily, and I'm going to talk and compare these three as far as firewall options that would meet Defund's network requirements. But before we do that, I just want to talk a little bit about the firewall market in general. Current market share information is limited, at least for free. There are reports out there that detail market share information for firewall. One of those is the Gartner's market share research, and that is a technology research firm that's very reputable. And they published a report in September of 2013 detailing the market share worldwide for firewalls for the second quarter in 2013. Now, the summary of that report indicates that Checkpoint is the leading market provider of firewalls with 22.4% of the worldwide market. It also indicates that their market share is a 7.7% lead over the second largest provider. Now, the summary of the report does not indicate who is the second largest provider, but from all my research and what I've found, it would likely be Cisco. And with that, we can also determine that the second largest provider has a 14.7% market share. Now, this full report, all 32 pages of it, is available. If you would like to purchase the report, that's the report's name. Again, it's by Gartner, and it would only cost about $7,000. This is another table I just found really interesting that I'll just spend a minute on, and that is a firewall market in 2011. One thing that's really interesting is that if you can notice that Cisco and Checkpoint combined for about 80% of the firewall market. Compare that to today, where the leading is Checkpoint, and they only have about 22% of the market. So what you've noticed is Palo Alto, McAfee, Fortinet, all these other vendors have really increased their revenues and market share substantially only in the past couple of years, which is great for competition and providing more choices for businesses to select from. Alright, so before we get into comparing the three vendors and their firewall options, let's just talk a little bit about the firewall requirements for Defund. Before you select any firewall, you have to make sure it meets your critical requirements. The first requirement I found was the data peak traffic stream. It peaks around 2 gigabits per second during high trade traffic periods. You'd need a firewall that can support at least, at a minimum, that amount of traffic. Now, there's also some 10 gigabit Ethernet connections used in the network. Depending on where you place the firewall, you must also make sure that the firewall is compatible with 10 gigabit Ethernet. And I would say this is the most critical requirement, and that's low latency. With any financial trading institution, time really is money, and having a slow network can end up costing significant amount of revenue. So the number one critical aspect of the firewall, I would say, is low latency. And then your standard firewall operations. Now, any firewall that would support low latency, the 10 gigabit Ethernet connection, they're all going to do this or be able to have the standard firewall operations. And then lastly, cost is also a concern. Fortunately, the economy is improving. Defund's making a lot of money, so cost isn't a big concern to them right now in designing this new network configuration. So let's just go ahead and get started. Actually comparing the different vendors. The first one we're going to look at is Checkpoint. Checkpoint, they have firewall software blades. These are actual blades that run on separate appliances that can be purchased depending on your individual needs. They have a lot of different options as far as appliances, but the basic firewall features are listed here in this table. It's going to support plenty of VLANs, link aggregation, over 500 protocols, NAT, IP versions, standard features that you're going to see within most firewalls. So your bigger selection is going to be the appliance, and the appliance is what's going to be based upon a lot of the network requirements. As you see there's a lot to choose from. The 1100 and 2200 appliances are typically going to be reserved for smaller businesses, maybe medium-sized business. Now Defun is a unique situation in that it has about 200 employees. Now that would typically fall under the small, medium-sized business. However, their network requirements of the ultra-low latency, the high-performance network, high throughput, is going to require you to actually look at some of the more advanced enterprise data center type high-performance firewalls. And those are going to be, as you move to the bottom of the table, the 21,000 appliances and the 61,000 appliances. So for comparison, I chose to actually look at the 21,000 appliances, and the main reason for choosing this firewall category has to do with the number 2 you see as an exponent in many of those fields. That 2 indicates the 21,000 model does have the ability to add the checkpoint security acceleration module. This is going to provide even faster firewall throughput. It's going to primarily, and most critical to Defun's situation, is it's going to provide less than 5 microseconds of latency. So it's very, very low latency and very high performance. Now it's unique, or it's interesting that the actual security acceleration module was designed specifically for financial trading and VoIP installations, which Defun has both. And just looking a little bit more detail into the table, you can see the firewall throughput with this security acceleration model is as high as 110 gigabits per second. So way more than Defun really needs at this point, but it also provides the latency and some of the other high performance requirements that Defun would need. So we're just going to go through all the requirements of Defun and actually check them off to make sure this selection, this firewall meets all the requirements. Again, the data stream peak of around 2 gigabits per second is not a problem at all. Again, with the security acceleration module, we're looking at 110 gigabits per second. You need 10 gigabit Ethernet connections. There are 12 10 gigabit Ethernet connections on the 21,000 models. Of course, they're low latency with the security acceleration module providing less than 5 microsecond latency. Standard firewall operation is a given. The one downfall of this is it is a little bit expensive at around 100,000 plus depending on the distributor. But fortunately, cost isn't the primary concern with Defun at this point. And also that typically comes with multiple security blades, not just the firewall software blade. It will likely come with the antivirus, IPS, and other security features as well. So next, let's just look at Cisco. Now Cisco, similar to Checkpoint, has multiple different offerings for firewalls, ranging from small office, internet edge, and enterprise data center. Similar to the Checkpoint, we're going to be looking at the enterprise data center model of the firewall, which we would need to do for the high network performance. Again, all the Cisco firewalls or ASA, adaptive security appliance. The 5585 also includes the security services processor, and that's going to be a variable based on performance needs. So there's 10, 20, 40, 60, and as you increase performance, the throughput, and different performance measures. The 5585 is designed for high performance and low latency, and it also integrates IPS. So similar to the Checkpoint, it's going to integrate other features as well. So here's a table of the different 5585 firewalls. There's a big range actually through the throughput of 4 gigabits per second all the way up to 40 depending on the specific model. For our comparison, I chose to look at the top two. These are going to be similar to the 21,000 checkpoint routers and would give us a pretty close comparison. So let's just go through the requirements again, make sure the Cisco router meets all the requirements. It would have no problem with 2 gigabits per second. There are 4 10 gigabit Ethernet connections. It is designed for low latency, obviously the standard firewall operation, and the cost is very similar to the checkpoint as well, at around 90,000 starting out. Then our last vendor we're going to compare is Juniper. Now Juniper, we're going to look at the SRX series for enterprise high performance. They have, similar to Cisco and Checkpoint, many different series based on needs. The SRX is for the enterprise high performance. Within that series, there's obviously multiple, or 6 here, specific models with a wide range. Again, going from 10 gigabits per second all the way up to 200 gigabits per second. We don't really need 200 gigabits per second. I would say that's on the extreme end. So we're going to look right in the middle at the 3600 and the 5400. Now we're not going to spend too much time here, only because this firewall does have some downfall that we'll get to shortly. But going through our requirements, it does meet the gigabits per second and the traffic throughput. It does have 10 gigabit Ethernet, depending on which model, anywhere from 2 to 10 interfaces. But the big concern is the latency. It's very difficult to find latency, performance standards, or history with the Juniper, with this model of Juniper. And doing some independent research, I found that some independent tests have found latency to be a problem in as high as 150 microseconds. So much higher than the Checkpoint and even the Cisco firewalls. It can perform the standard firewall operation, and it is a lot cheaper, at around, starting out around 40,000. So the critical goals and decision table, obviously Juniper is off the table, since the most critical goal that we stated earlier was very low latency, and it's not able to meet that need. Now, as far as other goals, I put additional features, ease of use and management, and cost of device. The costs between the Checkpoint and Cisco are very similar, so it really comes down to additional features, the management interface, and from what I found, it seems the Checkpoint offers a little bit more. And with their blade interfaces on the appliances, you can add multiple blade softwares to the one appliance and really make it flexible and customizable to each organization. So the decision is obviously Checkpoint. Unknown if Juniper meets all critical goals, latency concerns. Checkpoint is similar in cost to Cisco firewall devices. There's a flexibility of Checkpoint's appliances, again with the software blades and the ability to add multiple services to the appliance. And then also because the security acceleration module is made and designed specifically for a financial institution and those that need the very low latency. And then ultimately the ease of use. And here are my sources. I hope this helps, and feel free to reach out to me if you have any question. Thanks.